Okay, yes. I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Spain. My dad grew up in Madrid, and my mom is from the Boston area. So when I was little, when I was about 2 years old, like 1.5 to 2.5 years old, I lived in Spain, and I spoke my first words in Spanish, more or less, my first complete sentences. And then I came back to America at 2.5, 3 years old, and learned English mostly, and pretty much lost my use of Spanish. And then as a high schooler, I decided that I really wanted to get my use of Spanish back, and went my junior year, so when I was 16 years old, and lived in Madrid with family there, and went to regular Madrid public schools for 5 months. So it was first semester, September to January, and really tried to make my Spanish better there, was pretty much fully integrated. And did all my classes in Spanish and everything. And that has really been my experience so far. Yeah, I mean, so we, especially in my elementary years, we went to Spain most summers, sometimes spending as much as 3 months there at a time. And honestly, I really didn't speak that much Spanish. We were learning French in class in elementary school, so from 1st through 6th grade, I would learn French September through June, and then try and learn Spanish July and August, and it was really 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Always I felt like I was losing both the languages all the time. I did always have a base understanding. I could kind of follow conversations, but I never was confident enough to speak. So I really didn't speak much Spanish until I probably hit 8th or 9th grade, when at that point, starting in 7th grade, I did take Spanish classes at school, and that gave me a little bit more confidence when I did go back and visit. Communication was really mostly limited, I'd say, to people who did speak English, or the immediate family. Luckily, my grandparents, who we lived with, did more or less speak English. And then it was a lot of me nodding and pretending that I understood other relatives who would speak to us. The only kids we made friends with were kids that did speak English. We were lucky that there were a couple of bilingual kids, another girl who was half American, and some people who went to bilingual school in the apartment building where we were, and we became friends with them. But we got a lot of aggression and not very much understanding from the kids who did not speak English at all. They really, I don't know what it was, but we didn't get along with them. They didn't like us because we didn't speak Spanish. There was a lot of, I don't want to call it bullying, because I wouldn't say it went quite that far, but it was a lot of especially the boys that were a little bit older than us in the building would see us talking in English and would make fun of us, would use the few words that they knew in English, which were generally curse words, and yell them at us, or say different things like that. The words that they knew were generally not appropriate, and that was what they would say. Or they would pretend that they spoke English and just like say very random stuff, but they were not very accepting of us as we did speak. Absolutely, yeah. There definitely were people who were very nice, especially some of the older people in Spain who tried to communicate with us, family members who really didn't know any English but tried really hard, and it was always well appreciated. And it was nice. I mean, and it always, the biggest feeling that I remember, especially as I was 6th, 7th, 8th grade, was feeling really stupid and really resentful and disappointed that I didn't know Spanish, that this was something that I should know, that it wasn't that hard. I lived in Madrid with my grandmother and grandfather. who speak limited English, but really I tried. We told them ahead of time, and I tried to just not speak English with them at all, occasionally for explanation, but generally I really spoke only Spanish with them. I had a couple of friends from my childhood that I knew that lived in the building, particularly another family who the girl is about the same age as mine, and her mother's from Florida and her father's from Spain. The kids are completely bilingual, and I spent a lot of time with their family because it was very comforting for me because they spoke both English and Spanish. So when I never felt like I was lost or confused because I could always ask them in English if I didn't understand anything. But they were, the parents were good about speaking to me in Spanish, the daughter not so much because she preferred to speak in English also. But it was a good mix for me at least, so I felt like I had someone my age to talk to. So I'm going to school in it was Instituto Ramon y Cajal in Madrid. It really was just a neighborhood over from us. It was the public school in the area. Kids in the buildings next door went to it. It wasn't quite the school that most of the kids that lived in the building went to, but because you kind of have school choice there. But I would just get on the city bus and ride it like 5 stops, and then I was essentially there. And it was good. I mean, the school. In Spain, there is a lot of bilingual schools. There's a lot of schools where kids have spoken the language for a long time. Ramon y Cajal was not one of those. The vast majority of kids in the school did not speak much English at all. Almost none of the professors spoke any English. Or the teachers. There was like one teacher who spoke English, and then the English teacher. Because the way that the schedules work there, it's a very different system, and there's really only 2 choices. It's, are you going to be on the language track and take history and like lengua, which is like English essentially, but in Spanish, of course, or are you going to take the technology and math track? And so there wasn't much choice. So I ended up put in an English class. So I was taking 2 actually, conversational English and like grammatical English, like for the Spanish-speaking kids. And the teacher in that class spoke English, but she was a native Spaniard who learned English in England. So even the way she taught it and the way she spoke was not the same as I would hear at home ever. And I was taking all my classes in Spanish. I was taking like chemistry, biology, math, philosophy, and then Spanish language and these 2 English classes. And I think that was all my classes, and some sort of like gym requirement. So I was doing my best in all those classes. It was definitely academically challenging for me because the classes were hard, and then doing it in Spanish was extra hard. I especially had trouble with the classes like lengua and philosophy, which were essentially reading and writing classes, and my reading and writing has really never reached a level of fluency, of what I would call fluent in reading and writing. So those were always difficult. First day of school, I remember I was sitting in the first class and I was completely lost. Like, no idea at all what was going on. So incredibly lost. The teacher is up there lecturing. It's a very lecture-based, and Spaniards talk very fast, and I had no idea what was going on. I think I cried in the bathroom on the first day of school because I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do because I don't speak Spanish, was kind of generally what I thought to myself at that point. But I guess there was really no turning back, so I just kind of continued to attend class. And a lot of it was exhaustion. Like, your brain gets so tired. Like, the first 2 classes of the day, I could maybe do it, and then we would hit lunchtime, and I would just be hearing, like, a dull hum because, like, it was not entering my brain any longer. And as the weeks went by, that definitely got better. I found myself understanding more and more. One of the teachers specifically really liked me and would in the time the kids were supposed to be working on like their homework, like for that class, she would work on English with me, she would work on Spanish with me, like grammar, and sit down and look at like some of the subjunctive stuff and different things like that of more complex grammar that I hadn't gotten to. for my writing, which was really appreciated. And she told me that she could tell that it was getting better. It's really hard for me to give a good answer to that question because I had been exposed to the culture in Spain my whole life. It's not like it was the first time I was there. Things that would shock people, even the way the school day was organized, didn't really shock me because I kind of knew that. The way they do it in Spain is you don't have lunch at school, so you would go to school. It was 8:39 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon, and you would just have a break for merienda for snack time during the day, and you would have a juice box and a granola bar or whatever, and then you would go home at 2:30 and eat lunch. So there was not like a cafeteria or a general lunchtime. There wasn't tables where people sat and ate lunch. That was the school day wise one of the biggest changes. I mean, and also the way, I guess I didn't have cultural moments of that realization, but I had realizations of the system, the educational system there is so different, and I don't know which I hate more, the American educational system or the Spanish educational system, because neither seem to be doing the right thing in my opinion. It's particularly the way they do it there is they take 10 classes, and you get a number grade 1 to 10. 5 or below is failing. But the way they consider it is failing about 3 classes is fine. So I at the end of the grade period, I think I took 10 classes and I think I failed 3 of them. And other kids in the class were how is it possible that she failed less classes than me and she doesn't even speak Spanish? Was what people said, because that's just the way they run it over there. It's normal. So that was one of the things that really shocked me, was the way the system is so different in that way, because failing a class is always such a big deal in the American school system. I hesitate to call myself fluent in Spanish. I could not sit down and easily write you a paper. My grammar is not perfect, and I always said that when I went to Spain, I taught everybody else Spanglish. Because I kind of just learned to ignore the fact that I was making mistakes and keep going. I take Spanish class now in college, and I'm kind of trying to correct that behavior. But it's very difficult. I think that there has to be a certain level of understanding that once you reach a certain age, full fluency is very, very difficult to attain. It's frustrating. It is beyond frustrating for me because I was up to Spanish 3, I think it was, when I left high school, and then I came back and my level of verbal fluency was way above the class I should have been. So they put me in the senior Spanish class, and I took it for half a year, and then I had exhausted the Spanish options that my high school had, and I didn't even take a Spanish class senior year. And then coming to GW, I took the placement classes and whatever, and then you have a verbal interview with the professor, and from my first class last semester, they wanted to move me up. She was your fluency is very good, you need to be in a higher level, and I was no, wait, I'm really terrible, don't move me up, because you will see that my grammar and my writing is not where it should be, because I didn't learn some of the simple things. So, and that is exactly what happened, she saw very much later on that, so it makes it appear that I know more than I am. Kids in my Spanish class are always oh, will you help me? And I'm no, but you don't understand, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need your help, because I can speak well, but my grammar and my writing is really not at the level it should be.